Hey, what's up, guys? It's Jack. We are doing another podcast, and I'm super grateful today. I have my buddy Bernie out. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you for having me, dude. It's such a pleasure always talking with you.
Yeah, man. Bernie, he is a specialist with finances and crypto and all those beautiful things. And he has a lot of wisdom in that realm. And he also has an amazing, beautiful garden in his backyard.
Our potential, it's exponential.
How did we meet, by the way?
I first met Jack he was having a masterclass for gardening, and this was when I was first getting into gardening. And whenever I get into something, I just look for education. So I was like, wow, this guy has planted so many gardens. Look at all the work he's doing, the content he's posting. Like, I listened to your first podcast, and that's what opened up the door. And as soon as I saw that you were having the masterclass, I was like, dude, let me sign up for this. I know me and this guy are going to get along, and he's going to have a bunch of great information to share. And just went for it, signed up, was there 2 days. And then I think after the first day, we were already chit-chatting. And then the second day, we really got to get to know each other. And we just started hitting it off and becoming friends there and building this beautiful relationship since then. So yes. I'm super grateful of it too.
Totally, man. Me too. Yeah. Thanks. And it's cool because I've totally learned a bunch from you as well, man.
Yeah, so, we've learned a lot of each other, which was what makes it really. And let's just get it clear. I'm not that big of a finance specialist. If anything,
you're humble. Yes. Yeah.
If anything, I like to just pursue life. And one of the pillars of having a beautiful and abundant life is having the resources to live it, so
I love that.
There's a little bit there that
totally. So talk about that. When did you realize that, that aspect of it?
I think it all really started in college. My freshman year, I had a friend that lived in the same dorm as me, that he traded foreign exchange currencies. And he was just always into investing and finance. And I didn't even think that was a possible way of building wealth. I thought it was just you have to find a job and you have to produce income in that way and build up your job. And him and the way that he built wealth really opened up my eyes. And I started, getting involved, not knowing anything. And the journey has taken me here, and that would be 7 years ago, pretty much. The journey has taken me here where I've been living a different type of life, a lot more time liberty life, because instead of trading my time for money, I've learned to use resources to build more resources,
Using leverage.
Yeah, and I just kind of realized you're making relatively the same wage over time. Inflation and the prices of things are going up. So over time, if you just work for a wage, you basically are becoming poor. And then your kids are going to be poor. So you're not really building any wealth over the generations, over your lifetime, as opposed to owning assets and having assets that appreciate in price and produce a cash flow. That's how you really build wealth, because with inflation, all these assets, if they're good assets, are going to appreciate in price and they're going to keep up or outperform inflation, So,
right. So you need to have assets to
if you want to build wealth and build generational wealth, you need to own assets. And the quicker you own assets that appreciate in price and produce cash flow, the quicker your path to financial liberty will become, essentially.
Amazing. Yeah, and real quick, which is insane, I just heard this the other day. Mm-hmm. The average U.S. family makes $10,000 less than they did back when Nixon was in office, before, with the gold standard. Mm-hmm. And that is with inflation. So even people are still the common man's not doing as well. So it's as important now than ever.
Yeah.
Right. But real quick, Bernie, for people who don't understand, what is an asset? What should people be looking to get exactly?
An asset is something valuable. There's an asset and then there's a liability. An asset, to put into simple terms, is something that puts money into your pocket. A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket, So just to put an example, a big trap that modern man falls into is thinking the house that they own and live in is an asset. It's really not, because that house is not bringing you in any cash flow. Yeah, it's going to appreciate in price if it's in a good area, but you're paying, month HOA, insurance, like you're paying a maintenance fee on that house. So it's technically a liability.
Wow.
And what the modern man does is take, they get a job, they get a good job, and then they take out debt on a liability. And like, if you talk to any person that is good at or decent at building wealth, like taking out debt, taking out leverage to buy a liability is just not the smartest move. You want to take out debt to buy an asset that's going to put money in your pocket. Cool. And to follow up with your question, like an asset's like real estate, commodities like gold, silver, stocks, cryptocurrencies, like all those bonds, all those are assets and different asset classes.
Got you. And real estate isn't buying a house, you're saying. Real estate is...
I mean, it is an asset. Well, technically, no, it's not an asset because it's taking away money. Like, if you're living in it, it's a liability. But if you're owning this real estate and you're getting a cash flow from it, meaning you're renting it out to someone, then yeah, that is an asset at that point.
Mm-hmm. And I love you, Bernie, because you have created a life where you're like, you really do have time to spend on what you want to focus on, which is beautiful. I want that blessing for everyone. Yeah. But tell people about what you like to focus on, because isn't it about what you do with that time?
Mm-hmm. It's true. Freeing up a lot of time for some people could even be a curse.
Wow.
Because like you have so much liberty and so much freedom that you don't know what to do with it, right? So when I've always said this, and it couldn't be more true, like you can't have freedom without discipline. Like if you want freedom, you need discipline to go along with it as well. And to go back to your question, like what have I been doing with my time? I've been trying to, number one, just be healthier, like spend more time outside, spend more time in nature. Like I live in South Florida, which has such a beautiful like ecosystem. So I've been trying to spend a lot of time out in the water, snorkeling and getting familiar with our reefs and eventually starting to learn how to like spearfish and gather subsistence from the sea, which is such a beautiful source of abundance. I've also been learning to grow my own food, and that goes into part of being healthy and just being in tune with this earth that we all share. I've been trying to connect with other people, spend more time connecting with other people that are similar minded and kind of build that community, build that tribe, and like help grow with other people. So social aspects, health aspects, being more in tune with the whole system of Earth that we have. So I guess that could go into like, I don't know what category you would put that into, but that's a unique one in its own. Like doing work for the Earth, I guess, is something I spend time doing as well. And just being happy, doing things that fulfill me, like being active, spending time in the sun, spending time in the water, being barefoot outside, living like a wild human, and like trying to reach my peak state that way that I can be the best human I can for the planet, and I guess that's basically what I've been doing with my free time.
I love that, man. Yeah, I just realized I went to this event this weekend and I've been kind of low energy, letting like whatever, a lot of outside circumstances, affect my inner world. And that's not good. So I reeled it in, and it was good. I kind of zoomed out on it all, and I realized I got to fill myself up,
Yeah.
in order to serve others. So such an important lesson.
Yeah, I think if, like what's the best thing you can do for humanity? If you ask me, like be the best version of yourself. And then once you do that, then you can go on to other things. But until you're not good and not like at peak state, you're not going to be able to help like other people, right? And you're not going to be able to help yourself. So you need to get to that point first. And then like once you're filled up to the brim 100%, like overflowing, then what's overflowing is what you could share with other people, right?
That's beautiful, man. Yeah, I agree. And it's not your best self against everybody else.
No.
It's not even a thing. It's yourself against maybe your previous self that wasn't capable or not, didn't understand, didn't know.
Yeah. It's just like you looking at yourself and being like, what can I really be doing and what should I be doing? And being like blunt, honest with yourself and being like, okay, this is what I need to do. I'm going to do it. And then once I do it, then, how can I do more then once you've already put yourself at like peak state, essentially.
How do you do that, Bernie? That's so interesting because I think like being objective is so important, right? With the economy, with your garden, you have to just totally see it for as it is, right?
Yeah.
In order to adjust for however you need to adjust. How do you do that in your life?
Yeah, I guess like we've kind of fallen into this society where like we get told everything, what to do. And like independent thinking, self-analyzation, critical thinking, like all these skills kind of like get thrown away. And honestly, what has helped me be really objective and like learn about critical thinking and seeing things for what they were, what has opened up the door for me to that is investing. Because like if you're going to be a good investor or trader, you can't just go along with like what the crowd is saying, because you're going to get wrecked. Like you're going to be following the crowd, and to be good at investing, you have to be one of the first people to that investment when prices are at like a disproportionate level, and being, thinking outside the box and creative thinking, critical thinking is like, it's rewarded. So it really changed all aspects of my life. It really changed like how I view a lot of other things. And it really allowed me to grow this critical thinking and independent thinking skill, and like, learn to even go against the crowd sometimes, which is not popular sometimes, but it can be very beneficial, So I think that's kind of
amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, Bernie. Yeah, I heard Ray Dalio, he's amazing,
Mm-hmm.
a great investor, but I think invest the most amount of money out of anybody.
Yeah,
he has a
big fund.
Insane, yeah, and super wise guy. And he said that the way to do it is you have to go against the grain and be right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hard to do.
It's a tough thing to do.
Yeah.
But it transfers to all aspects of life, like if something doesn't sound right, like a lot of people say like, oh, take out debt for school and then get a good job and then you're stuck paying off this debt and like all this stuff. Like if that doesn't sound right to you, or something that general society states to you doesn't sound right to you, you don't have to go with it, You can choose to do what sounds good to you, And that's, I think, something that's like really lacking in today's society is just, deciding what's best for you and going with it, and not succumbing to other people's around you wishes, whether that be parents, societal, family, friends, whoever it'll be, And it's not easy to do. I get that.
Yeah.
Like it's not easy to do at all. But if we all did that, if we were all a little bit more critical thinking, a little bit more independent thinking, I couldn't help that we would have a lot more free flowing and functioning of a society without like some people really doing bad and very few people really doing good. We kind of like create a more balanced approach to society.
Interesting. I love that thought. Yeah. And it is hard to do, right? I think that's such a big theme for all of us. Like every one of our peers, you talk to them like, oh my God, I'm stuck because I'm trying to please my parents or trying to.
Yeah.
And I think I'm fortunate, and you too, like we're a similar boats where we do our own thing in a lot of ways.
We do our own things. I'm sure you've had backlash. I've had backlash, like we've all had it, but we kind of just like decided to say like, like I don't care, I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to look out for myself. I'm going to fill myself up first, and then I can,
Because we believe in what we're saying. It's not.
Yeah. And we get fulfilled by what we do, right? Like the work that we do, the things that we do are a net plus for humanity. So that's always like a big driving factor too. Like I'm always super inspired and by your work and what you do. And I always say like you're doing the Lord's work, like bringing food abundance into people's homes, making it accessible, like teaching that system and making it a business, where you could sustain yourself from it. Like that's the Lord's work, and if everyone like chose that path where they're going to do something that's net positive for the world and fulfill themselves, like what would the world look like if we all did that? Like it would look pretty fucking awesome, like compared to some of the things going on now.
Dude, you pump me up. Yes. Let's shift gears. I want to talk about that exact thing what you're talking about, but in our experience, like how has your garden, what have you learned in your experience since the masterclass, right? Like, and implementing it yourself. And also, how has it affected your community?
I'll start off with the like shorter term, the easier to the last question you asked, like how has it affected my community? It's built a lot more emphasis on my community, right? Because like, especially with like the scenarios that went down with COVID, where you can see like how fragile our supply chains and our systems are when something bad happens. Like, yeah, we're hyper economic, whatever the word is, you know what I'm talking about, like hyper connected in the economy. But as soon as that breaks down, like that's bad news for a lot of people, right? And a lot of people would suffer because of it. So it has taught me that like resiliency is a good thing to have within your community. And like we can all get food close to us, you know? And it feels so much better to eat that food that grows close to you. And working within neighbors, like, hey, like, yo, like I've been planting so much stuff at people's houses that let me, you know, like I'll go plant some banana trees at my neighbors because I have some pups left over or something, or I'll go to the nursery with some friends and go plant a bunch of stuff, like, you know, one little thing, and it just like builds that community, and you're sharing resources, I'm sharing resources, like you build resiliency and like love for your neighbor, you know, and that's like something that plants and the garden has taught me. And on a more personal level, I mean, I've said it that plants and getting involved in this lifestyle has been my greatest teacher. Like learning from nature, learning how she moves, and like understanding that like man is not really at the top of the system. We're just part of the system, you know? So it humbles you in a way because like you learn that there's greater forces above you that are out of your control. So all you can really do is like serve the greater purpose and be the best human you can be for this collective home like we share, you know? So it has taught me that, to move with nature, and like it has also taught me like how much work it takes to get that food onto your plate. Like
Respect.
it is a lot of work, and it's a lot of love and a lot of intention. Like, and we have it so easy now because we could just go to the supermarket, or even worse, like we can go to a restaurant and have that food made. And now like Uber Eats and all that stuff, like you just bring it to your home, like ready to go. And it just has taught me a lot of respect for the way that food is grown and how it's grown and what the repercussions of how it's grown has to our collective home. And yeah, like taught me a lot of respect for all that, you know?
That's amazing. Yeah, it humbles you.
Yeah, it does. It really
100%.
does.
Yeah. I heard one time that I think Albert Einstein said it. Like any discipline you get into, any field you get into, you get to the end, like, and become a master, you can't help but love and appreciate the wonderment of creation.
Yeah.
It's like insane. And I think that's especially true for farming and gardening.
Yeah. And it just teaches you like everything that, you know, it's not just you or whoever's hands is working to put that plate on your food. It's all the little critters decomposing, like all the excess plant material, creating fertility for like your food, like all these little things that have to come together for you to get food on your plate and to sustain human life. Like, wow, like what respect. And like, it has just changed my perspective on food and has really made food and like, especially like restoratively grown food, like have so much more respect and value and priority in my life, you know? Like,
I love that's your answer. The emphasis on that.
Yeah.
In your community. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So are you getting bananas? What's your results? Where are you at?
I mean, bananas I made bananas like pretty important in my system for a lot of reasons. Like, they're really abundant. They produce a lot of food. You know, they produce a lot of like green material for the rest of my system.
Biomass.
Yeah, biomass. Yes. And it's a good place for me to dump like a bunch of excess plant material. You just give it to the bananas and they'll eat it up. So like nothing goes to waste in the system. And you can freeze them, you can dry them. You know, I drink a lot of smoothies and eat a lot of fruit. So it's just perfect for that. And they're producing within a year. I mean, papaya is also under that same category, like very abundant fruit that produces within a year. You could have it as a vegetable, you could have it as a ripe fruit, very versatile. The beds, the annual crops have been hitting. I just cleared more space for annual crops because I've realized just how productive they are. So I've cleared out more space in this area where I've been really building soil. And I have some like alongside with the beds that you built, I created like space for some in-ground beds. So that's really exciting. And I planted a bunch of sweet potatoes in that space during the summer. And then in the winter, it's going to be really productive.
Cool. Are they growing or did the iguanas get them?
Nah, the iguanas, we've been taking care of the iguanas. Like they know, they see me coming. They're a little scared now. I've taken out some of their alpha males with a bow and arrow and with an air gun as well. So like once they see some big alpha males disappear from an area, you know, they get the point. And it's nice because to continue building on the community theme, you know, like I take out these iguanas, but I don't let them go to waste. My neighbors that are from the Caribbean, it's common for them to eat iguana. So I'll just call them up and be like, hey, I have some iguanas for you. They don't go to waste, you know, they get eaten. So taking care of one issue and feeding my community, like that's a really beautiful thing. And that's just keep implementing like little steps like that, building more community. And I think like the health of humanity can really be to a point where, you know, it's incredible.
Wow. I agree.
Yeah.
The problem is the solution.
Yeah. It's great permaculture saying.
Yeah, man. Yeah, they're invasive, man. We got to do something about it. I love that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But eating them is never a bad thing.
Yeah.
I know Ralph, like he's done iguana fertilizer, which like shout out to Ralph.
Hey, Ralph is awesome.
Yeah, he is. I got to hang out with him one day and help out in his little community garden. And, you know, just another soldier doing the Lord's work as well, you know.
Shout out Ralph. Remember Plants on Instagram. Check it out. He's got resources.
Yeah. But he did like iguana fertilizer as well, which is super awesome. So it's just, like you said, problem. The solution is the problem, or the problem is the solution.
Yes.
Vice versa.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. So you got sweet potatoes growing. Are you gonna grow out your veggie beds this year? You're close to Tree Amigos, which is lit.
Yeah. I've been actually buying a bunch of seeds and starting a bunch of stuff from seed, getting on that journey. Right now, I'm just like building fertility in the beds. I don't really have too many things going on in the beds. I threw some tobacco in the beds to keep the genetics going from the tobacco plant that you gave me. So I've just been saving the seeds and keeping the generations alive. And that's a really sacred thing, because I know that's a really sacred plant for a lot of cultures. And like
have you worked with it at all? It's amazing.
Yeah, I actually have. I have it more just, I grow it now. I don't really, sometimes I partake in smoking, like, and rolling my own, I guess, tobacco cigarettes with like organic hemp paper. I grow it just because the tobacco plant has just been like put in this cage of like cigarettes with a bunch of toxins and all this stuff. And it's such a disrespect to the plant. And I know it's really sacred for a lot of, you know, like our Native Americans, indigenous people in South and Central America as well. This is a very sacred plant to them. And I know I partaked in like a hape ceremony or rape ceremony before, and learned a little bit how it's used in that way. But I just grow it just for the respect of it, and just to have it around to offer to people, or just to throw into the fire sometimes as an offering to just the world, you know, and that's how I like to use it.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful plant.
It's beautiful aesthetically, and it's also so powerful. I need to learn more about it, but I've just been paying my respects, keeping the genetics alive. And
you know, you could use it for insecticide, pesticide.
Really?
Yeah, they use it to like to like clean rafters and barns and stuff. Like it's really good at that.
I need to take a little bit more time to educate myself a little further, and maybe speak to some indigenous folk as to like why it's so important in their culture, just because I haven't had that exposure yet. But
heck yeah. Cool, man. So you just went to Costa.
Just spent a month and some 2 weeks in Costa.
Amazing. A month and 2 weeks.
Yeah, it was really beautiful.
Yeah, you told me, dude. Why did you go, and what was it like, and what'd you learn?
Some high school friends just wanted to set up a trip to Costa Rica. I had been there before, and I know it's a really special place that's like not as like developed as like the United States. So there's just a lot more nature, wildlife, a lot more greenery, and their culture is really emphasized on maintaining that nature and maintaining like the biodiversity and the beauty that Costa Rica has. So that's really prevalent in the culture. So I love Costa Rican culture, and I love just the geography, and to go surf a little bit too. I love surfing, and that's such a beautiful sport, because you're just like riding on the ocean's energy and enjoying it, and like doing this little dance. So all those things.
Hell yeah, dude. Surfers, I didn't grow up surfing too much. I was always hooping. But surfers are definitely, all my friends did, they're into gardening. Yeah. Skaters, surfers, we're all, and
I think it's just like a certain type of human that just like loves to play and like play, still connected with like their inner child, and like, You know, you look at most little kids, like they're fascinated by gardening, you know? So I think it's just
Right.
like that. Like they like, wow, like look at this carrot. And then they eat it and it's so fresh and delicious, you know, like, and then you give it to like an adult that's been like used to eating like all this processed food like their whole life and they don't appreciate it the same. So it's,
I think you're right. Maybe a lot of people are jaded.
yeah, you just
And
get exposed to like all this processed food, this junk sugar and like all this stuff, and it just throws off your taste perceptions, as opposed to like when you're a child, like you're not poisoned or tarnished by all these like really addictive like products that food scientists come up with, like trigger your dopamine as much as possible. And you just have it and you just know it's good for you, you know, like you eat a carrot with a ton of dirt on it, like that's just the best, you know?
Yeah, man. I'm full all day.
Yeah.
On one.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. It's just a nutrient. You can't get more nutrient dense food than just like freshly picked when it's supposed to be picked. And like one of the reasons why I got into gardening and one of the reasons why I appreciate the food that I grow so much is because it just makes you feel so good, man.
Right.
It makes you feel so good.
Totally. Yeah, it does. And I mean, what you just said is so beautiful. It's like we didn't like lose that childhood like wonderment, whatever you want to call it. Like it's some people probably think we're crazy getting excited on carrots.
Yeah.
But like it's lit, man.
You're crazy not getting excited on carrots.
Exactly. Exactly. But yeah, man, I think it is. We're about to do this garden for this school that's like starting up, like an unconventional school that's, you know, probably got it really going on and teaching these kids how to empower themselves and do cool things and learn for themselves. And they want a garden and they want to teach them about it. So I'm going to help them with that.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
That's what it's about.
And it's something, I feel like gardening is like one of those things that like once you get into it, like there's no getting out of it, you know? Like once you grow your own food and eat that food and see how it makes you feel, like going back and eating like grocery store food is almost like am I really trying to eat this right now? And then you're like,
we're ruined.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, like it's summertime, right? So we don't have a lot of greens coming in, and it's been a bummer. I just bought a bunch of spinach from the store. It's like crazy. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
It's like it hurts my soul to get spinach.
Yeah.
But you know, like we'll be going.
It is what it is.
Soon. Yeah.
We're on the journey as well. You know, like you're not gonna all figure it out in one go.
Cool. So Bernie, also tell me more about, like you mentioned dopamine earlier. Tell me a lot about that, because we've had conversations about this before, about how a lot, like in our society, it might be super easy to just like tap out and just get quick dopamine hits and not really work for them like men have had to in the past. Talk about that and how you combat that. And
yeah, I mean, this is not something that's original thoughts for me. I've had to like have had this brought to my attention, but I think where I first saw it and like the person that's like illustrated it the best for me has been a person on social media that goes under the name Naval. And like,
he's awesome.
He's fantastic. I'd highly recommend checking out his work, his podcast, his Twitter, all this stuff. He's a really thoughtful guy. But he basically goes on and says that the modern day struggle is like avoiding cheap dopamine, you know, like processed foods and sugars, pornography, like scrolling endlessly on social media or consuming a ton of content, whether that be like video games, TV, like social media, quick processed foods that like you know that fire off dopamine. Like I said, these food scientists are coming up with the biggest way to fire off those dopamines. Pornography in relations to like actual healthy sexual relationships, you know, going out, partying, drugs, like alcohol and other things that are and like cigarettes that are really common in our society but are actually really detrimental, as opposed to like some of these other like plant medicines that could be really valuable for our society that are like demonized in certain ways and made illegal for whatever reason to like keep our consciousness at a certain level, essentially. You know, there's really no other reason to ban these substances or plants, you know.
Totally. Yeah, I feel that, man. And it's hard to stay grounded in a world that's so prosperous and easy to, you know, to take off. So it's good to these reminders.
We've like humans are so good at building technology, and like we've built technology to a point where like everything is just so easy for us. And we build also technology to a point where it's like a detriment to every other species on Earth because we've just kind of like taken over. But yeah, we build technology to the point where everything's accessible to us. So like nothing's hard. So we're like slowly turning into these like humans that are like don't even move around. Like you see it like on some of like these dystopic movies like in Wall-E, where you just see like a human sitting down on this like hovering chair. They don't have to do anything. They don't have to do anything, you know, they don't have to go anywhere for their food. They don't have to grow their food. They don't have to hunt animals. They don't have to like do anything to survive. And it's turned us into these like soft humans, you know, that can be pushed around and are not really resilient. And like it almost has like taken away some of like the masculinity that's like was around, you know, prior to this time.
Yeah, so I totally agree because we are soft, 100%. Like
And I'm
think
soft too.
Yeah,
I'm like,
right.
like
dude,
even me.
Dude,
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Amazing. Like they say good times make they make great people. Great people make like bad times. You know what I mean? Because they're so you know what I mean?
it's just easy. Like it's easy, right? So you just struggle isn't a thing. So it's
convenient.
like yeah.
So we have to make things hard for ourselves.
We have to create struggle for us
to stop that cycle. So yeah, I agree. But I think we're soft and all these things. Like if we grew up in it, you know, and we like 20 years ago see ourselves growing up in a soft world. Like imagine these kids now. It, like makes me like I love
it's scary.
Yeah, like it could if you focus on it too long for sure. But I really do. Like hard times make good people again. The end of that quote that I was saying earlier. They make hard times and then hard times make good people again. That's gonna, you know, that's happened forever. But yeah, it's really good to pour this information and belief and everything into this next generation because you already know the media and the schools aren't doing it for them. So,
and that's one of the reasons why I do gardening, because gardening isn't easy, you know, like, and you would know out of both of us because you do it every single day and you do it for other people as well. Gardening, creating your own food, creating your own food abundance is not an easy task to do, right? Like it's a lot more comfortable to just go to the supermarket, buy whatever it is you need, right? Like,
so true.
But it's a challenge that I set on myself because of this reason we're talking to. Like we need to do things that make us tougher and things that are tough that are good for the whole, you know, instead of just choosing the laid back route. So, and that's why like I even, you know, I'm growing a bunch of my own food. My goal is to grow more food every year, every season. And eventually even I want to get into hunting and gathering my own animal products and that's a whole nother world that's tough to begin with. Like you cannot be soft and go out and
you gotta carry it out the woods.
Yeah,
you gotta
carry it out the woods. Be smart.
But let's get back to that, dude, because that's
Sorry.
No, that's amazing because that's exactly right. You have to, but I will have to just interject and say I don't garden and do everything like I used to at 10 hours a day, 12 hours, because I gotta be smart with my time and get back to clients and all those things. So I am kind of getting into it where I could sit on my phone and whatever and relax and not push myself physically, which is important, you know, every day. I really believe that. So I just went backpacking recently because it's hard. And no one was up on the mountain and I was thinking about it because it's hard to do. Like it's good it's good to be different, push yourself, things that people aren't doing.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know, if it's good for the world, good for yourself, all those things.
Yeah, we live so comfortably that we have to actively go out and do things that are uncomfortable.
Chase it.
Definitely.
Bernie and I, we go on long kayaking trips.
Yeah,
you know, like
we should do another one soon.
Yes, we should. Yeah. So anyways, Bernie, before we wrap this thing up, because I definitely want to get a little bit more into it because of the specific time we're in. If you talked to us a year or two ago, we'd be way more bullish on Bitcoin and all these things that we're into. I just want to hear your take basically on where we're at now. Not that Bitcoin has changed or any of the principles, because Bitcoin is rad and it's definitely way better than our centralized, you know, what we're stuck in. What would you say, how do you see the environment as far as right now in crypto, and like what would your suggestions be for people? Not that you're giving financial advice.
Definitely not financial advice.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. What would you just kind of, what are your thoughts on that, where we're at right now?
It seems, I mean, all financial markets work in cycles. And if you're good at timing these cycles, like you can make a lot of money long term. Like I'm still, super bullish on all these assets, like long term, but you just have to understand that, there are cycles to these things. And like we're in a weird place right now where a larger like macroeconomic cycle is timing up with a crypto cycle pretty much. So Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies have never really seen like a tough financial time. Bitcoin was created in 2011. That was post like the 2008, 2009 financial crisis. So Bitcoin's been growing and thriving in this environment that's like as a whole economy, and not maybe as a whole economy, but like financial markets during all that time have been going up pretty much. Like if you look at the stock market, it's been going up since 2011. And now recently we just came out where we had 2 consecutive negative GDP quarters. And that's what like defines a recession. So technically right now,
Even
like
though they said it's not.
yeah, they're going to, it's just what they do. They'll lie. But basically like we're in a recession now according to that particular metric, and there's other stuff that aren't looking that good, in certain aspects. And the Federal Reserve is like tightening monetary policy, so they're making financial markets like tougher to engage in. So that's going to tighten down on the economy. It's going to cause certain asset prices to go down. It's going to cause the dollar to go up in strength,
So since all that's happening, because that seems really overwhelming for someone, how do they safeguard themselves as in a time like winter where
normally what what makes sense for winter is to have as much cash as possible, right? You want to be frugal with your spending, accumulate as much cash as possible. That way, when assets are at like ridiculous discounts and at prices like everyone's like, oh my gosh, the world is going to end, like blah, 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 like the stock market's going to zero. When everyone's like at full panic, you're the one with dollars ready to buy up like all that pain, essentially, Like that's how you really make money that's how you take advantage of cycles. You ride the wave up, which is, normally like a 10 to 20 year cycle, depending how long it is. You start to see the signs that things aren't looking so hot. So you have to go from aggressive strategy to like more frugal and conservation. And like having cash is not a bad thing. Yeah, you might, inflation's high, so you're going to lose like 9% a year. You can maybe try to like keep up with inflation in a certain way. That's a whole nother topic, but have cash ready to buy the pain, essentially. And that's how you take advantage of the cycles,
Right. Which is hard to do in a time of pain. That's why most people
it's
don't
tough to do, but then that's why people aren't successful in financial markets. You have to go against the grain.
To go against the grain.
And it ties that up together,
Right now it's, yeah, totally. And what would you say as far as like wallet storage? Are you do you care in either way? Some people are like, you have to have cold wallet storage in like time. What do you think?
The whole point of cryptocurrencies is to like have control over your assets, right? If you have it in an exchange, you don't have control over those assets. It's like having your money in a bank. You don't really have control over those assets.
Yeah.
So if you have it in your own cold storage and your own wallet, then you do have control over your assets. So it really just depends, why do you own crypto? Like, do you want control over it or do you not? And then, that's pretty much it.
Totally. Yeah. So last thing on crypto before we move on, because I have to mention it. My client yesterday, she's way into it and telling me, buy Hex, do all these things, anyways, she's like, beware of Bitcoin, all this stuff. And she's like, it's run by the CIA. What is your thought on that? Is that possible? Like, who is Satoshi Nakamoto?
Yeah, well, we don't really know who he is.
Exactly.
I mean, Satoshi has a wallet with like 1 million Bitcoin. So that'd put like the CIA in charge of like 5% of all Bitcoin supply, which is maybe not the best thing. The reason I can see the CIA or like any, government entity creating like a decentralized cryptocurrency is to like be the person to disrupt themselves, like people are becoming more and more aware of like the financial scams that is like the US dollar and like central banks and how they print money out of thin air, and they choose where that money goes, and it doesn't go to like your everyday person. It goes to like really wealthy people, and then it trickles down like, and at some point maybe it gets to like your average day-to-day consumer, so that's definitely like a trend that's rising up, people being aware of just like how much of a scam pretty much like central banks are. So they can either do one thing, they can disrupt themselves and create the currency that's going to disrupt their currency, or they can create this currency that's like decentralized, like free for everyone to use, like that's supposed to be like the anti-establishment currency, and then they can secretly have control of it and then destroy it and then be like, hey, look, you see like these free alternatives, like they don't work. You need someone in charge of your currency, and that's going to be us. And then that's where like something like a US, a government coin comes out, like let's say USD coin, and then they're in charge of it. They control all the transactions. They can see everything, and it'd be a sneaky way for them to implement like total like financial surveillance, essentially, like into the system.
Wow. They could just shut it off at any point.
Yeah, it's not like they could they would shut it off because that would like be bad, but they could just
shut individuals off.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty
they have control over the entire system. They don't like what you're doing. You have no access to
But hey, it's safe because we could run it. I hear you.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, who knows anything? The answer is we don't know. You said
as an investor, as a trader, like nothing's ever certain. So like the wise thing to do is just come up with possibilities. Like, oh, this is a possibility. This is a possibility. What are the more likely possibilities? And then like have a plan for kind of each of them, And then like you see certain things moving a certain way, like, oh, it's looking like it's more this possibility, like let me act on this. And that's kind of like how I tend to play that sort of stuff. Nothing's certain. It's just possibilities, but you have to, you can construct them. And
yes, I hope we're not losing anyone because this is great stuff, and it really tied like the Bernie and I always talk about it. It tied like finances and gardening are super like on that because it's the same thing with gardening, right? Where are the like what's really hitting and what do you go towards?
Yeah, what's the environment looking like, right? Like, like right now, like when you have a bear market in like financial markets, like risky assets are not going to do well. So it's like, trying to grow like tomatoes in the summer. Like it's just, what are you doing?
Right.
Like you're just going to be wasting your time, right?
That's a great example.
So it's like similar to that, you have to understand what your environment is like and what's going to do well in that environment. And it's like goes to, and you have your plant portfolio, you can have your financial portfolio, you have things that work well for you, that don't work well for you. It's really similar. And like the philosophy of it, the philosophy of trading and the philosophy of gardening can really apply to like so many different aspects of life. And it has impacted my life like super beneficially to like get into that mindset,
Heck yeah. Anticipation is power, baby. Bernie, if you could leave the people with one thing, what would you say to them? If there's like one nugget, one thing you've learned anywhere.
Jeez, there's a lot of things that I would love to share, but
no pressure.
Yeah, no pressure at all. I would say just follow your heart, like don't see the world as a collective, like don't just focus on yourself, but see all the other human beings that are around, like working for you to live your life and you working for them as well, for them to live their life. And it's not just humans, but every plant, every critter. Just remember that we're a collective and we're all here sharing this earth, and it's important that we all like work for each other. And if I had to add like another little thing, just don't lose your inner child, because that's such a beautiful thing, and that's what's going to keep that light and that spark inside you as well. So yeah, I would say those two things are pretty important right now.
Bernie Curbelo, I appreciate you.
Dude, you're the man, Jack. Thank you so much for having me on, dude.
Thank you for
appreciate it.